Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Rishab.
How you going, man?
I'm really well. It's very nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's
After
been too long.
Yeah, I know. After all these years, I swear. We were just talking about it off air, but when was the last time we?
It would have been 2016 would have been the proper last time that we saw each other. So
yeah, I remember that. I always grew up looking up to you. I do remember that.
Thanks.
No, I think so. How Rishab and I know each other. I always love doing this with guests and just getting to know them or giving a bit of context as to how we know each other. I think we first started swimming together.
Yes.
I was very young. Joined the squads. Adult squad.
Yeah,
at, the
you're
old
a freak. You were very good.
A freak? No. Oh my gosh. I think during that time I really just did not enjoy swimming just because, transitioning with older people, everyone's really good, big, strong, built. I was just this little chubby kid.
Yep, same.
Well, we all were.
Yeah.
So
that's why we were there. We were
lose the fat. Thanks, Mum and Dad. And that's sort of how we knew each other, and then sort of went to Q High.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh my god, it's Rishab.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the story, I guess.
Yeah, you got there at like 2014. You started at
15.
Q? 15.
Yeah,
started
15.
At Q. Yeah.
Good
That's
fun.
Crazy.
I know. Literally
Q
wild.
High.
Q High.
Q High.
What a place. What a place. Anyway, what's been happening? Like, give us a bit of a synopsis.
Yeah, I guess. So I left Q High in 2010. So I never really
Got to see the end of it.
I never got to see the end of it. And I moved to a acting high school and spent my last 2 years there doing VCE and an extra 50 hours of acting training on top of that.
Yes.
And I auditioned, which is like what you're told to do. You're told to audition for like the major acting schools, the acting unis. And I was lucky, like I got into the 3 that I wanted to, and they all happened to be interstate. So I had a choice of, moving to Perth for 3 years or Sydney or Brisbane. And I chose Brisbane because, I didn't really want to go to Sydney. It was really saturated with actors, and Perth seemed really distant from everything. And I'm sure it's not, and I'm sure all the people that are there are living life and having a great time. But I think just for me, I was like, it's way too far from my family and my life is in Melbourne. So I thought Brisbane would be the best choice, and turned out to be really good because then COVID hit and Queensland did barely any lockdown. So I was just enjoying myself. I was living on the beach, living life. Everyone's like, oh, we're in lockdown again. I was like, yeah, we had like a 3-day lockdown. It was great. So no, it was really cool. And then I graduated uni in 2021, and I went straight into working in music theatre, which is what kind of everyone knew me for at high school, at Q High. And I was the kid that did musicals, the kid that was in drama, and that was like my thing. And it was interesting, like jumping into it, because I had kind of spent the years after leaving Q High, I had spent trying to disassociate myself from musicals and trying to move as far away from that as possible in terms of acting. So I wanted to, just become a straight theatre actor or a film actor. And then I pursued a acting degree rather than a music theatre degree. And I was like, this is the path that I'm going to take. And, I'm not going to be in music theatre because that's been frowned upon my whole life doing it. So I'm going to go into straight acting because I do love it and it is my passion. And then life being life gives me my first job straight out of uni being music theatre. And I was like, this is insane.
Funny how life works like that.
Yeah.
All the twists and curves, and then you end up back at like a day dot or square one.
Full circle.
Yeah, 100%. I want to touch on, you were the drama kid or the acting kid. Talk to us a bit about that. I think it's such a strange thing to say, or not strange thing to say. I just think the title and the label of it, like you say it with this tone that's like looked down on.
Yeah.
Almost.
So it really is like drama and theatre is really frowned upon at least it was at my time in high school. And, I won like the drama award that, you do at the end of the year, school assembly.
Presentation night.
Yeah, presentation night.
Yeah.
God. And even then I thought maybe that would give me some recognition, some validation that what I was doing was like, I was getting an award for this. So surely it's something that people would look at and go, wow, okay, cool, you're doing that. But even then it really wasn't. So I started singing at a very young age. I started dancing at a very young age. And I did like talent schools. I did the Young Australian Broadway chorus. Like I was around performance my whole life. So for me, it wasn't anything different. But when I came to Q High specifically, because in primary school, it was kind of fine. Like, you know, you're a young kid, you're exploring and stuff. But in high school, all of a sudden I was faced with like people, like a lot of homophobia, a lot of people questioning why I'm doing it. Like, you know, I was pretty tall back then. I played basketball a lot. So people were like, why aren't you doing sport? I was pretty academic. People telling me like, why don't you follow that path? And no one really respected, or there was like a lot of bullying going on around it, for that, for being like the drama kid, for being extroverted, for being open and kind of expressing how I feel. It's so frowned upon. I think in high school culture, everyone expects you to put your head down and not create waves, and only create waves if you're popular, if you've got money, or if you're funny. You know, these are the characteristics of people that you see rise in high school or have their time in high school. You know, they're popular, they're rich, or they're funny, right? So I wasn't any of those things, and I was just extroverted. I was really loud, and I was pretty fucking annoying. You know, as a kid, I was like, I would try and answer all the questions. I was putting myself out there because that was my expressive medium. You know, that was how I did shit. So,
and that's almost frowned upon in a way.
Yeah,
you put
it
yourself out there like that, which is something that I've come across post high school. I feel like I peaked in high school because of those characteristics. You know, like school captain, doing well at school, followed the path that is, you know, championed and held on a pedestal. Like, oh, he's got a like 99.95 ATAR. Like, not that I got that, but you know.
I was like, damn, well done, man.
No way. You know, they prioritize these needs, and then I see on the outskirts, like, like you said, the music award, the drama award, people are like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, like, who the fuck gives a shit? You know?
Exactly.
Like, I got my specialist award or my methods award or English award, you know, those high achieving, quote unquote, accolades. And it's shit. It's shit when you describe, I guess, the bullying, even the homophobia as well. I can imagine, like, as a male going into acting and being expressive. People in high school aren't expressive. Yeah,
and it really is a place that either grows you as a person. I mean, it'll do that regardless, but it can also really put people in their shell. It really can force people to close over. And I think we're seeing that a lot now with people when they come out of high school and they come out of that environment and they're suddenly just aware of everything around them. They don't know what to do. They are struggling to kind of move through life and life's challenges because they spent so much time just being covered and shut down a lot. And I mean, those characteristics, like, you know, if you're popular, if you're rich, if you're funny, like, those aren't bad things. They're not horrible. And, you know, there are those people that, I know plenty of people that are amazing like that, but it's those select few that utilize that to then take advantage of other people or to, you know, make fun of other people just because they have different interests, you know, which is what I had. I had a different interest. I wanted to pursue acting and drama, and it wasn't seen as a viable career. It wasn't seen as a long term. It seemed like such a pipe dream. You know, being an actor was such a pipe dream to people. It was like, you'll never be an actor. You'll never make anything. It's such a hard industry, blah, blah, blah. And it was so weird because in my head I was like, how do you know that your career as a lawyer is going to be any different? How do you know that your career as a doctor, as a surgeon is going to be any different? Like, those are still, if not more difficult avenues to pursue.
It's so rigorous.
But every time you tell someone, even now, like, I tell people, like, I'm an actor. Like, I say that I'm an actor. And they're like, oh, you know, that's a tough industry to get into. I was like, I'm already in it, man. Like, I'm already doing it. What do you mean it's a tough industry to get into?
The fuck you on about?
But before that, they were like, oh, you know, do you have a backup plan? Do you have something else that you want to do? And, you know, even my parents as well were very specific about that. Like, you know, if you're going to do this, make sure it's just a hobby. Make sure it's just you've got a backup plan, something you can fall back onto, like law, like commerce, like biomed, whatever, you know, because I was able to get into those, but I was like, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to follow that path. I want to follow what's going to be true to me, what I know that I'm going to love and what I'm going to actually enjoy doing.
Who got you into it? Acting, drama?
I think my mum and dad got me into singing and dancing. Just at a young age, I was just kind of, there's that age-old story, like everyone's just kind of dancing, singing around in the living room, whatever, right? So they were just like, oh, we'll just put him into singing. He'll enjoy that. And I don't think they expected it to kind of blow up the way that it did, because I was then, performing every week or doing shows. And then I did Guys and Dolls at Q High in year 8. And that was my first real acting thing ever. And we had Mr. Brandt, we had Soraya Brain, Miss Brain. And that's where I kind of fell into the world of, there's this third element of music, singing, dancing, and acting. There's this third element of acting, which I had no prior knowledge to. So I'm doing this, I'm falling in love with it. The next musical comes up, and I'm like, all right, cool. You know what? I'm going to try this again. That'll be great. And then in year 10, I was like, well, what can I do with this? I love this. I've done this my whole life. How do I make a living out of it? How do I pursue this passion, whatever? Found out that there was a school for acting. And I was like, all right, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to pursue this, because then I can learn how to act. Because it was specifically acting. It wasn't music theater at all. And back then I was like, I love music theater. Music theater is going to be the best thing ever. And so I was like, well, I need to learn about this acting side. I know how to sing, I can dance. I don't know how to act. So I'll go to this acting school, learn how to act. I'll finish it, and then I'll get into music theater. So even in year 10, I was like, all right, cool. This is the next step. I'm going to do this, and I'm then going to do this, and that'll lead to this and this and this and this. And obviously not all of it turned out that way, but somehow now I'm working in music theater. Now I'm like, oh yeah, whoa. That year 10 version of me, that 16-year-old was like actually onto something,
Yeah, it's crazy those when stories like that work out. I think more recently, especially towards the latter end of the year when everyone's graduating and everything, I attended my partner's graduation, and they were speaking about, actually someone made a speech about how, sometimes you don't know where life is going to take you. And as a 16-year-old, or I guess in your progressive years, when you set that goal for yourself, who knows, in a decade's time, are you going to follow or trust that 16-year-old's vision? Things change and you don't really recalibrate sometimes.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
Yeah, 100%. I was always looking at the next thing from a point of view of what'll happen when I'm there. What'll happen? What will I feel when I'm there? When I've gotten into that uni, when I've gotten into that, will I feel like I've made it? Will I feel like I've achieved something? And then when I get to that point, I'm already thinking of the next thing. I'm already going. And that can be a very destructive habit. People, I think nowadays, are learning the ideas of hustle and learning the ideas of having to keep moving and, go to the next thing, always elevate, always push yourself further in your career and in your person. And I think I'm learning right now to just kind of, at points, just sit back, look at what I've achieved, take a look back that you've climbed that mountain. Yes, there's another one in front of you that's even bigger, but just to look back and go, okay, cool. I made it to this point. Well done, me. Tick, 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 tick. And now I'm going to climb the next one, because I think in another 10 years time, or even when I hit 26, that's what, 3-4 years. Oh, Jesus, that's 3-4 years away from me. I think I'll look back, all right, in 10 years, where have I come? What have I done? Have I achieved? And I could be somewhere else completely. But right now I know, all right, I need to grow in these ways. This is how my career this is what I want for it. So by 26, this is what I want to have. And then I can look at it, go, okay, 10 years. Yeah, cool, I did that.
Yeah, love it.
I respect that. Yeah.
Love being present and being able to reflect and be proud of the achievements that you I don't know, come across or have achieved anyway.
Yeah.
It's so important to just sit back and be like, hey, look, I've actually done this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so destructive, that hustle culture, where it's like, what's the next best thing? What's the next biggest thing that I need to jump onto, or trend or achievement that I need to latch onto, I think it can be so destructive.
What about you? Like when you were 16, did you envision where you are now? Like
Absolutely not.
really?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely not.
What do you think the biggest change has been? Like from
I thought I wanted to be an accountant.
Right.
And we both sit here and laugh at it
Yeah.
because look at this big old accountant doing a podcast.
I know. I mean, you can be an accountant
exactly.
and do this.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
to all the accountants out there doing
Exactly.
podcasts.
Shout out.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to be an accountant because I was like doing VC accounting. I was like, hey, I enjoy this.
Yeah.
And then you go into the big wide world and you're like, hey, I absolutely fucking hate
this
this.
sucks. Yeah,
This sucks balls.
Right.
So yeah, definitely did not envision where I was at. I guess like what were you like as a kid? Doing the singing, dancing. I'd assume you'd be pretty eccentric or outgoing or extroverted. What was it like in terms of your formative years?
I think so I was quite out there and very, very brash, very loud.
I do remember this.
Yeah.
I remember.
I'd get into a lot of trouble. I had a very big problem with authority. And one thing that like I got known for in high school was just being so fucking annoying. Like I would just annoy the shit out of everyone, my peers. And it would always come, like it would never be a conscious choice. It would always be like me just trying to be funny or trying to engage with this person, or me not liking that there's a long awkward silence, so I'm going to say something stupid. And I only really got rid of that kind of, because what happened was it then turned into aggression, it turned into being cocky, it turned into being arrogant, and in my last 2 years of high school, I had one teacher who I was very close with. We were on a very, mutual kind of level and mutual level of respect, who sat me down at the end of year 11 and was like, your arrogance is going to be your downfall. And if you don't do anything about that, it's really going to damage your life. And my response to it was arrogant. I was like, no, it's not. Like, and then I said that and she was like, looked at me like, you just did it. And I was like, oh shit, I did. So, and I had enough respect for her to go, yeah, okay, I'll take your point of view. Because I think if it had come from anyone else, I would have been like, fuck you, man. Like, like you don't fucking know me. Like, get the fuck. But
I mean, the fact that it came from a teacher, I don't know, who spends a lot of time with you as well.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was that whole situation like? And did you dwell on it in the future?
Oh, dude,
like,
I spiraled, bro.
Yeah.
Like I was going downhill. I was like, am I arrogant? Like, no, I'm
just
not.
questioning everything.
Just questioning everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was absolutely bang on. She was on the money. And I took that summer holiday to just kind of go, holy shit, like I need to get my shit together. I'm going into year 12, going into a very important part in my acting career, because this will determine if I get into a uni. Because acting unis are all audition based only. It's got nothing to do with your academics. It's how good your audition is. So I was like, I got to knuckle down. I got to get better, right? So I was like, there's no time for arrogance. There's no time for me trying to be like, I'm the best actor, So I distanced myself from my entire year. Like I cut myself off from all my friends, from parties, from everything, and was like, I'm just going to focus on acting. And looking back, I, regret some moments in that where I did that, where I, shut off friends, like in probably not the most healthy way, but it's what led me to make a change now. And now I can actually have some humility, have some respect for opinions and the difference between having an opinion and just being a fucking dickhead, and just being arrogant and respecting that, which is what I wasn't doing. I wasn't looking at that. And I think that started when I was in high school. I think that's that whole journey started from me trying to express and trying to be eccentric and be that kid and always be like, look at me, that kind of attention seeking that, probably isn't coming from your home life, and all those kind of issues that just kind of spiral and end up on top of each other. And it's not blaming it. It's just going, well, there's a pattern here.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Psychoanalyzing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Probably not healthy to do it to other people, but when you sit here on a podcast and talk about how you've gained humility. And I think you've gained so much humility just from that whole segue there, just being able to look back on, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, I was a bit of a cocky dick.
I was a real cunt.
I mean, I mean, the fact that you can sit here and say that and be at peace with it, or so it sounds, is a testament to yourself as well. And it's crazy, I guess, the things in life where there's a fine line, because you can be confident, right? And you need confidence for your acting and your performances, you know, you need confidence. But then there's such a fine line where it tips over to being cocky and arrogant. What was that like, and how did you identify those moments when you maybe crossed the line a little bit, or maybe, I don't know, didn't recognize what you were doing?
Good question. That's a good question.
Appreciate it.
No, because that's something that I have thought about a lot, because it is such a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Literally.
And it's just people's, like not all the time, but sometimes it's just people's perception as well. It's just their, you know, they could have had a bad day and go, oh, wow, he's fucking arrogant. And then the next day you could do the same thing and they're like, wow, he's really confident. Like, you know, like it's such a fine line, especially with people who are confident. You know, there are people who work on their confidence. There are people who are confident. I see myself as someone who is confident, who puts myself out there, who has a voice, who tries to use my voice. And yeah, I walk that line every single day. And it's so hard to navigate, because there are things that you want to say, there are things that you want to do, and then you have to look at how every point of view is going to see that. Right?
I love that. I can so relate with you and empathize with that. I think in high school, I thought, you know, I can say whatever. Like, who cares? Like, what does it matter?
God, we were
dumb.
dumb.
Yeah, so dumb. And it's such a naive thing to think as well.
Yeah.
Just, I'll
like,
say
there's no consequences to what I say.
There's always a consequence to what you say. And I learned that, like, in some hard ways where it just cut off friendships.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wish the best for them. And I've done some growing as a person as well.
Yeah.
And that's what matters, I think. But holy shit, it's such a fine line.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people our age now see growth as they still see it in that negative kind of mindset. Like, you fuck up, right? You mess up, and if you don't learn from it, you don't move on, you keep doing the same things, cool, right? Fair enough. But I still think that if you fuck up and you grow and you learn from that, and you learn from that mistake, you shouldn't then continue to be punished for it, you know? And I'm not saying that that's happened to me. I'm saying that we see so much happen in our society. Like, okay, people go to prison and then they get let out and people still reprimand them for that thing. It's like, well, what more do you want them to do?
Exactly. Like they've served their time.
They've paid the consequence. Yep. There isn't more that they can do. And if there is more that they can do, then we as a society need to change those rules, or we need to, anyway, that's getting into political stuff. Yeah. But walking that fine line with confidence and aggression, not aggression, arrogance, but I would sometimes you do it unconsciously, you know, like
it's just who you are.
You have a thought, and like there would be times where I'd have to give feedback on other people's acting performance in my cohort at uni, right? And they would do it, and I would give a piece of feedback where I was like, I really like this, but I think it would be better if you did this, blah, 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 blah. And people can view that as an arrogant kind of cocky point of view of going, well, you think you're better than me, and you think that you're a better actor, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, no, actually, I have the confidence to be comfortable with you to tell you that and go, hey, I think this might help, especially in the situation we're in where I'm meant to be giving you feedback. So a lot of people, it can come from the way that you speak and the way that you walk that fine line. And I've definitely had to do some learning on that, on how I come across, because sometimes it was just so blunt. And I would go back and I was like, man, I fucked that. I was a dick. You know, and I was so harsh with it, because you have to take, when you're walking that line between confidence and aggression, it's always going to be with other people. It's never just with yourself. It's always with other people. So you have to think of other people, you know, and everyone's going to take shit differently, right? People have their own shit going on. So you have to be careful. And now applying that to the theater industry, my career, it's so much more tense. Like, you're walking on eggshells because you never know who you're going to meet. Mm-hmm. You never know who controls the room. You never know who's casting the next project, who's got the next big film coming out. So you don't want to come across as this arrogant piece of shit.
And you don't know like what they're going through as well. And
Exactly.
I think, empathy just comes, that's just the first thing that just comes into mind, you know?
Yes.
But then you can't always read people's minds. And sometimes it's more about communicating. I think when people let loose and they get a bit pissed off at what other people do, I like to think when I feel that way, I sort of look back and say, well, did I communicate that I was feeling like shit? Or did I make it clear that, you know, like I'm not feeling 100% today?
Yeah, did I articulate myself in the way that I needed to?
Or am I just, shut off and those sorts of things? It's not always those things that are telltale, you know, like you might have to do a bit of prying. But yeah, I think from that perspective, sometimes it's good to just be like, hey guys, like I'm not feeling too great today. Can we just like lay off the jokes or, you know, like just leave me, give me some space.
Just give me some space. I just need some time. I'm still here. I'm still present, but I'm just going to take a step back.
100%. Jeez. It's a fine line, these things.
It is. It's
just
hard. Yeah. You walk through life but that's the thing. When you fuck up, you got to learn from that. You know, especially like we're both very confident people. We're outward people. We're expressing ourselves through our own mediums, and you kind of have to push boundaries. You kind of have to put your feelers out there if you want to change, if you want to evolve. You know, you can't do that without fucking shit up, without breaking a few eggs, you know? And
it comes to the point of you can't please everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the consequences point as well. Like everything you say is going to have some sort of consequence, and people might not necessarily agree. And whether you continue to associate or dissociate with those people is up to you.
Yeah.
Like whether you're trying to change an opinion or you know, collaborate as a group. Like those things always come up, and it's hard. It's really hard to navigate sometimes.
So difficult.
Yeah, a lot of growth there, and you know, I'm sure we still have lots of encounters to come across.
100%, dude.
There's going to be like feedback or you know, disagreement, and you know, things being said that might be taken a bit differently. And it's very subjective. So very very confusing stuff.
It is, man. It is.
To say the least, I guess. And then your high school journey, like, continue growing up.
Yeah, so I really I changed in uni. Like I went through a really dark patch, and struggled a lot with like my mental health. Struggled a lot with being away from home.
Can you change the cameras?
Oh no, you're all good. Keep going. So struggled a lot with being away from home. I actually met someone, had a really bad relationship, but not in terms of like things went wrong, but in terms of like I just didn't know what I was doing. Like I was trying to maintain a healthy relationship life, a healthy work life, a healthy like career life, and I was realizing I didn't have those kind of skills. Like I didn't know how to do that. And then like I put on about 30 kilos worth of weight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
So I like took that path. Like I put on 30 kilos, and I was the heaviest that I'd like ever been in my life. And I was a big kid. Like
you're very tall as well.
Yeah,
so.
And I'd always struggled with my weight. Like as a kid, even that's like a thing in high school. Like if you're a big kid, you get put down a lot, you know, you cop the shit if you're a big kid.
You
and I
really
was
do,
like, cool, I'm going to be a big kid. I'm going to like drama. I'm going to annoy the shit out of everyone. And I'm going to be black. So I'm just going to piss off every single person in high school with these 4 things. So I was like, I'm just a walking target right now.
Is that how you felt growing up?
Yeah. Oh, all the time.
What was that like?
That was rough. Like, cause I couldn't go to anyone with that. Like I wasn't, huge, but I wasn't lean or ripped. Like I had quite a big stomach, and I wasn't very strong. And my brother is a powerlifter. Like he's a huge guy, and he made his career in sports science, in playing nationals for rugby. Like he made his big guyness into who he is. You know, he made that a part of his personality, and I didn't know how to do that. So I didn't really have anyone I could talk to. I found myself again in really dark times, like suffering from depression from a young age and on antidepressants from a young age. And that also made it hard. Like that affected my weight a lot as well when I was a kid. And so, yeah, I find myself like going, okay, well, I need to express myself. I need to be happy in some way, but all I'm getting is backlash from that. So I'm going to retreat back into my shell, and then I'm going to feel like shit about it. So because I feel like shit, I'm going to try and jump out of my shell again.
This vicious cycle.
Yeah, it became really cyclic. So and then, I faced quite a bit of racism in my life. Q High is predominantly, when we were there, was a predominantly white school. Now, it's changing. We got a lot more people in the vicinity, in the area of people moving in, people immigrating into our suburbs, which is amazing. We love that. But back then, like there wasn't a lot of colored people on the staff. Like the faculty wasn't really reflecting the students. Not that there were many of us, but you know what I mean. So I faced quite a lot of comments, a lot of bigotry from most of my peers, people who I would have called friends, but then, because I didn't really have any way to connect with other people, I just stuck around that environment.
Yeah, I can imagine how isolating it would be, especially, you're shouldering, I guess, being a person of color, pursuing acting, very eccentric as well. And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. And I don't know why. Like, is it that bad of a thing to be outgoing and curious, Yeah. I think it's just the curiosity aspect.
And what I find interesting is that once those people who don't really associate with that outside of high school, let me say it again. Those people who don't really like that in high school, once they leave high school, they start to kind of enjoy that kind of stuff or find that was how they wanted to be, but they weren't. So it was more suppressed. And I've met people from Q High who weren't like that. And I meet them now, and it's so interesting, like seeing them be
I'm happy
eccentric.
I'm so happy.
And I'm like, that's so great. You asshole, why couldn't you have been like that in high school? No.
No, but you know what? It's so limiting some of the factors. You have your, I don't know, like your cool kids group, your nerd, like your typical, stereotypical stuff. And sometimes that's so limiting and intimidating for them. They can't come out of their shell because all these cool kids are going to look down on them.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't come out of their shell and try sports because they're going to get judged because they're not very good. But they want to give it a go.
Exactly, yeah.
But they can't because, oh, you're so bad. Like, oh, we're not going to pick you for the team. Don't come play with us at lunch. And those sorts of like really childish things that you experience in high school. You come out of uni, these people thrive.
Yeah.
And then in my case, I've seen people who are, the cool kid people or the cool group, they've peaked in high school and they're still hanging out with each other at uni.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world, but there are so many fucking people out there.
It's weird.
And you just keep to yourself still. Like, I make it make sense.
Yeah.
I
mean, there are a lot of situations like that in my life where I've seen those people who were the cool group when I was there, and they're still friends to this day. And I knew a lot of them really well. I don't know if you remember, but in high school, I made it like one point in year 8 or year 9. I was like, I want to know everybody. I was like, I want to make sure I know everybody's name. I know everyone's passions, and I want to talk to as many people as possible. And
I love that.
That kind of stemmed from me being like, I am alone, and I don't, like that's where it stemmed from. Okay, yeah. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna say hi to everybody and introduce myself. So by year 10, I knew everyone's name. Like I knew everybody.
Like in the year level or the whole school?
In my year level. I knew every single person. I knew what everyone's passions were, and I had at least had one conversation with everybody that I could have.
I love that.
And I would walk down the hallway with one of my friends. Who do you remember Annabelle Davey?
Oh yes,
yeah, school captain.
Yes,
person. And one day she said this awesome thing to me, but we were just walking to our lockers, which happened to be at the end of the hallway, whatever. And she couldn't get a word in because I was just trying to be like, hi, like try and say hi to every single person that I could. And I think after doing that, after putting myself out there, trying to meet new people, I found I was like, I can't stay in one group. I can't just sit down every day with the same people. I need to meet new people. I found this kind of hunger to learn about people and learn about new people. And I think people who are in that environment in high school, who stay with that same group, stay with those same interests, and don't really explore, don't use the time in high school to try new things, find new passions, find new things that you enjoy, try uncomfortable things, because that's where growth happens, in those uncomfortable spaces. So I think when I see those friends now, or friends, but those people that I know, and I see that they've kind of put blinders on, to life.
100%, yes.
And they've just kind of just gone oh, well, you know what? I know what I like. I know what I've done. I know what I'm good at.
These are the people in my lane.
Yeah. And that's okay. If that's the way that you live life, that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. However, I'm inviting those people to take a risk, take a challenge, because you could find a completely more fulfilling, more satisfying way of life. And I think what's sad is that after high school, you didn't do that. You stayed in that from high school. That's what's, to me, is sad. Because and it's ironic because I was acting, I put the blinders on, and I was no, I'm gonna stay in this. Yeah. But through going, you know what, I'm gonna meet new people, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna do all this stuff, as well as follow my passion, follow something that I'm really fucking passionate about. Whereas these people are I'm gonna be a tradie, not that being a tradie is bad.
Just to clarify,
just to clarify, not that being a tradie is bad.
Don't want to get cancelled.
It's that it wasn't what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't what they saw their life going, where they saw their life going. It wasn't something that they were actually passionate about. It was easy for them. And I think that's sad. That you're doing something that's just that. It's just, okay, yeah, I can do this. It's great. It's not, this job is hard and this job challenges me and this passion is pushing me to be a better person, to meet new people, to experience new things in life and fuel your soul, feed that part of you that goes, yes, I come home from a day at work, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but my mind is running, my mind is awake. And I can say that, I am able to do that every day. I can go to my place of work, I can go meet new people, work with new people in the industry, travel, and I'm so lucky and so grateful that I did that. And when I see people who I know had so much potential in high school, who were so academic, who were so smart or so passionate about something, and then, you see them working at Coles and they're miserable. It's not even that they're happy doing that. They are so miserable. And yeah, it's just sad, man.
Man, I could post this whole podcast and just a fucking content.
Yeah.
Content reel, just Rishab. Honestly, I fucking love that so much. And it lights me up when you speak about that, so passionately as well. And I think it goes back to that one word that you said, easy.
Yeah.
We're in a society, I fucking don't want to say that, but,
but
our generation just gravitates towards what's easy. Whether it's because of, I don't know, social media, TikTok, you're scrolling through, it's easy, it's dopamine coming into your system.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible.
It's so accessible. It's convenient. Easy to reach. It's, streamlined pathway. It's like your high school, uni, go to your job, work in an office because you're going to get lots of money and that's easy. Not maybe the work's not easy, but the pathway is easy. And then you're just stuck there. And then that's it, and you're just, not fulfilled, like you said. And that just lights me up because, that's what I've started to realize as I've gone through the high school system. Wanted to be an accountant. Went to first year uni. Didn't want to be an accountant. Did not want to be an accountant. Second year, I'm working through it sort of thing. And then it's third year, might as well just finish it at that point. And then that's the money grab from uni. And then that's, just precious time, like you said in the little sheet that you sent over to me. It's time being, chipped away and we're only on this planet for a finite amount of time. why aren't we doing what we love?
Yeah.
And this is why I do the podcast. Like, I want to chat to people like you. I want to meet new people and get new opinions and views and perspectives of other people. Like, it lights me up.
Exactly. It's like, how do you feel after you do this podcast compared to how you feel after doing a day at uni, you know? And sure, uni is such a mindset of, oh, this is negative and this is, I don't want to be doing this, I don't want to be studying. But some people love it and it's great. But, you know, you've found something here that you're passionate about, that you love doing, that you can experience, and it's like, okay, cool, now how do you take this further? Or what are the other pathways? And it's that uncertainty, that not knowing where does this go next, that's what fuels people's passions. That's what makes you go, oh, I'm actually interested. I'm curious. I want to know what's going on. And, you know, to plug another one of your podcasts, Paige Tan, like, you look at her now, and now she's doing something that she's extremely passionate about. Not that she wasn't passionate about teaching.
No, she loved teaching. Did you have her as a teacher?
Yeah, I did. She's my maths teacher.
She's fucking awesome.
Best. She's so good.
Literally.
Love you, I know you're going to be watching this as well. But, you know, now she's taken that and found something exciting, found something new and challenging, and that you necessarily don't know where it's going to go. It's uncertain. And I think that's, as fucking humans, like, we need that. We need something to chase. We need something to, like, work hard at. And I think a lot of people who go down that road of putting the blinders on, doing what's easy, I think they find that later on in life. And that's when you lead to things like midlife crises and like people leaving their jobs, quitting their jobs and picking up something random. And then there's this whole stigma about midlife crises. Like, oh my God, you're going through one. Like, it's like, well, actually, no, if you look back, this person didn't take all those opportunities
it's
to
the
explore everything.
Yep.
And if they then come back to that, great, cool. They've at least had the experience to. But now they're going, well, I need to step away from everything because I realize my life, I haven't explored and I haven't experienced, I haven't traveled, I haven't tried to play the guitar, I haven't done all this stuff. And I think for, you know, not the younger generation, but the younger part of our generation, you know, the people that are 17, 18, or the people that do watch your podcast, like, who are in uni right now, I think the most important, not most important, but a way that you can experience new passions, a way that you can try and find new passions, is immerse yourself in culture, go to art shows, read really good literature, go see a play, and I'm not just trying to plug the arts industry right now, but immerse yourself in people that are doing their passion.
Yes.
Immerse yourself in people that are doing what they love. Find those people, be around them, because their creativity, even if it's like, this person is so passionate about biochem, stick around that person. Find out what makes them passionate. And then once you start to connect the dots with all these people of how they feel, what it looks like when they feel like that, and then when you've come across that thing and you start to feel that way, and you're like, oh my God, oh, that's
clicking.
That's what this feels like. That's what this passion feels like. And it's like, it's really hard to find that in a university setting. But what a lot of people don't take advantage of is that the university does provide a lot of stuff. Like,
they do. I will admit they do.
The universities do provide a lot of opportunities to do that, but a lot of people don't. You know, like, go do social clubs, go do sports, go to an open mic night, go to a slam poetry, like, you know, go do the stupid shit with your friends that you think is stupid. You know, like, if there's something going on and you're like, this is so dumb, let's just go to it for the shits and gigs. You'll probably have a really good night. You know what I mean? Like, go to libraries that have really wacky events on. And we're in Melbourne right now. You know, this is the hub for random fucking shit. Like, you know, there's so much random stuff that's going on. You can go on Facebook events and just find random shit to go to. And I used to do that in Brisbane. I would be like, what is on this weekend? You know, like, I have no idea. Okay,
serious?
Cool. This is going on in the West End. I'm going to go to that. And it could have been the weirdest night, but I'm like, and I sat there and I did that. And for me, cool. Did I learn something? Maybe not. But like, maybe. I went out and I experienced something that I probably wouldn't have, you know? And I think that's the most important, not most important, but something that is really No, fuck it. It is really important. You should go and experience things that you wouldn't normally do, because you're right. We have a finite amount of time. Why not go and find your passion? Why not go find something that you can really feel satisfied in? You know?
I just fucking love that this all came from, I mean, maybe not all of it, but, you know, you were feeling a bit alone. You know, you were feeling isolated and just segregated from the rest of the cohort, or maybe peers, students. Yeah, same thing. Teachers, maybe. And then you just, I don't know, took it upon yourself one day to walk through the corridor and just be like, "Sup?"
Yeah, literally. I was like,
and then that's translated in like almost in a parallel to going to events.
Yeah.
And just putting yourself out there. Yeah. Crazy how that revelation happens. And I think it leads to an important point where your life is self-determined. Your life is something that you have control of, even though you might not think that you do. But the fact that, I don't know, you were able to take your step out and just say hi to people, or click going on an event and just go, put yourself out there and sort of ignore the anxiety or the stress or nervousness that might come alongside maybe embarrassing yourself or having to, I don't know, do something in public that's a little bit embarrassing, you know? The fact that you took control and took the reins and went, nah, fuck it, I'm doing it. That's what I love. And I think not enough people do that at uni, especially now, because COVID's happened as well. Or because, I don't know, maybe their friends aren't going. Or it's not cool. It's stupid. Oh, it's dumb. I don't want to do it. It's a waste of time. But like, you never know when you jump into these things or situations, what can come out of it as well.
Yeah, I think there's such a big culture on, it's so weird if you go do something by yourself. But I think finding solidarity, finding peace with yourself, you know, and finding out that it's okay to be alone. That was a huge lesson, you know, like finding out that it's okay to be alone. It's okay to fucking go to the movies by yourself. It might be weird, but like, you know, I'm kidding. Like, but it's all right to just go and do things by yourself, because then you'll be more open with people, you know? And so when I was, you know, going through my uni years and after hitting all those dark patches and rough times, all I wanted to do was to just be by myself. All I wanted to do was just to be by myself. But when it comes to an acting degree where you're consistently interacting with people, you know, it's 50 plus contact hours a week. So you're in there every day, Monday to Friday. It's really hard to take space and for people not to notice. And so my cohort, you know, noticed me pulling back, pulling away, stepping out, missing classes, not rocking up, and gaining the weight, and my skills were failing. I wasn't performing at my best. I was ruining relationships with directors, with creatives, and I took a big hit. Like it was a real big hit. My years at uni, mainly my second and third year, to the point where I started having health problems. So I started passing out. I started being sick all the time. I started, my body started failing. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I'm in a really bad headspace. I'm now in a bad physical space as well. And my passion isn't fulfilling me. And I went through this phase of like, acting isn't it. I can't do it. I've wasted this opportunity. I'm in a different fucking state. I've wasted all my money. I'm broke. Like there was a point where I had no job and I was like, okay, I'm fucked. And then I lost my house and I was like, fuck. So I had just gotten a job, but it wasn't enough. Couldn't pay the rent and I lost my house. So I was now living in between uni and the car park underneath work for like a month. And I was like, fuck. I didn't reach out to family. I didn't reach out to friends. I didn't reach out to anybody because a lot of stigma about being a male with mental health, a lot of like pride issues, about ego issues, about, you know, not wanting to burden other people, which I think is a big thing that a lot of males feel when it comes to mental health, that they don't want to burden their family, their friends, other people. They want to be able to solve it by themselves. And so, yeah, I hit like rock bottom. And from there, I was like, whoa, like this is rock bottom. This is it. Like and, you know, had some real bad run-ins with the hospital to the point where my mum then had to fly up and like immediately, like had to get on a flight straight away, had to come up, and I had to explain to this woman why I was, you know, in a psych ward. I had to be like, I just spent a week here. This is why you were called, because they needed someone to pick me up, and I don't have anyone here that can pick me up. And so it was just heartbreaking, you know, looking at your mum's face and just her going, what is going on? You know, and so we ended up finding a hotel. We spent the next week getting a place for me, and basically set me back on track to finish my third year of acting, you know. And the entire time she was there, she's like, you know, you can always come back home. You can always leave this, which I think was very important to me, to know that at the end of the day, this isn't it. Like, this isn't the end. And so I was like, I actually really struggle with the academic side of stuff. I was like, I was a pretty smart kid. Like, I did all right. I topped some of my classes, but I struggle with a lot of the academic side of stuff. And that's where a lot of my mental struggles with the university course had started. And then I felt like I was failing, and I felt like I was falling back, and I felt like I was having all these external factors going on, like mental health, physical health, blah, blah, blah. So when I came back into third year, like I left second year, like I went back home. I went back home for the summer holidays, and I told my friends, I was like, I'm not coming back. Like, I can't do this. I'm not coming back. I love you all, blah, blah, blah. I'm gone. Third year, ended up coming back, you know, and everyone's like, yeah, well, we didn't really believe you. I was like, yeah, fair enough. Whatever. But I did the same thing that I did in year 12. I isolated myself from everyone, and I just tried to focus on what it was. And I think, because it's still fresh, it's still last year, right, 2021, I don't have that hindsight that I did when I look back at year 12, because at the start of this year, I was like, yeah, no, I made the right decision, isolating, blah, blah, blah. And then now I'm like, fuck, I miss those guys. You know, I miss those people, because there's only 14 of us, right? So I miss those friendships. Yeah, we are like so close. You become so close. And you have those fights, you have those fallouts, because you end up becoming this really big family. But I know that, like, they will be there for me in terms of 5 years down the track. We'll still all have that great connection. You know, we'll still all be really tight-knit, because they all saw me through in their own specific way through a really dark part of my life. And then at the end of the year, when we're all, you know, vying for agents and vying for a job, you know, trying to get a job straight out of uni, and you see my friends getting those jobs, and I'm like, yes, that's great. And getting the agents that they want, or not getting the agents that they want, and then finding a different path into acting now. I'm like, you know, it's only been a year, but some of them were struggling at the start of this year, and now they're like killing the game, you know, and doing so well. And it's so great that one of the guys sent a message to the group just on Christmas, literally the other day, and he said, whether you're doing this or this or this or this or this, and he listed what everyone was doing. And it was so beautiful just to read that and go, oh yeah, this person's doing this person's doing this. That we were all still like, we still had some form of that passion, you know, some form of that drive that put us through. And I came out of it going, I'm so glad that I went through that. Like, I'm so glad that I felt that alone, that I felt like rock bottom, because now I know the signs. Now I know the external factors. And sure, there's going to be new ones and there's going to be new challenges, but I'm not going to get to that point again. Like, I won't be fucking homeless for a month, you know? I'm not going to be broke. I'm going to save my money. I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to make sure that I don't feel that way, because it was like a whole year of my life, man. And in that year, fucking COVID happened, and I was like, this sucks, dude. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to those stories of having those really deep depressions during COVID, and during those times of just feeling lost and just feeling what not to do. And I think my lesson that I learned from it was that there can be so many negatives that come out of it, and there always will be. But I think if you can find that positive, or if you can retain something that you had before COVID, and even if it's weakened, even if it's lessened, if you can retain that, you know it's real. You know it's there, and you know that it's something that you should pursue. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Jeez.
We're getting deep on the podcast.
We're getting so deep. Oh, my Lord. That was... I didn't even know that happened to you.
Yeah, well, it's not something that I...
go out and say, this happened to me.
Immediately, it wasn't something that I did. But then I was like, actually, no, this is something that I should talk about, because a lot of people don't talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people aren't saying shit happened to me. I'm a man. I'm, confident, but I have dark phases. Like, not a lot of people saying that.
And I appreciate you, like, actually chatting to me about it and sharing that story, because I just think, like you said, people don't come out and just say, like, look, I was homeless for X amount of time. And the pride and ego and everything that led to that ultimate, I guess, downfall. Talk to us a bit about that. Like, what are the signs and what was that recovery stage like?
I think my pride and my ego comes from my family, my upbringing. Of our family is very much like, we don't like to show people that we're struggling. We don't like to burden other people, because like, I had a really rough upbringing in terms of my relationship with my father, and I would have like police coming in every other kind of week, and so I think that because I watched my mum never show any fear towards us, and didn't show her dark times, didn't show anything, I felt like when I ever had those, I couldn't show her. And that's not saying that what she did was wrong. That was just saying that's where I learned that from, and I just picked that up, because as a young kid, I was like, oh, cool. When I'm feeling like shit, this is what I need to do.
Funny how we adopt a lot of the traits that our parents have.
So many, dude.
Yeah, so many.
Like, and there was this ego of going, no, you know what? I'm not depressed. I'm not depressed. There are many other people out there that feel way worse than I do, or have much worse situations than I do. So who the fuck am I to complain? Like, and then that kind of self-hate of going, how dare you fucking complain, Rishab? Like, you're fucking blah, 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 blah. And so the recovery phase came from going to therapy. I think everyone should go to therapy. And I know a lot of people say that, but I mean, a lot of men our age should go to therapy, because a lot of us think that we don't have problems. A lot of us think that we're just straight up guys. It's like, bro, we got problems. Like, work out your problems, or just find someone to talk to.
Exactly. It doesn't even have to go into...
It doesn't even have to...
I think people are like, oh, therapy, and it's just this big old stigma of, and it's like such a negative thing. Because at school, when people were like, oh, I'm going to like the school counselor, everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they're like, are you
dying?
okay? Yeah.
Are you dying? Is there something up?
Yeah. Actually, I loved going to Faye Harding. Was Faye Harding your school counselor? Yeah. So I loved going to her.
Oh, you went to...
all the time. Like, I would just
I was one of those kids. I was like, oh, what's happening? Right. And I look back, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
You know why that kind of happened? It was because we would go during classes. Like, that was the moment.
True.
You would have to kind of get up in front of the class and be like, I'm going to the school counselor. Like, I'm going to the counselor. Or like, Faye would come in, open the door and be like, Rishab, cool, let's go. And so the whole class is going like, what the fuck is wrong with Rishab? Like, what did he do? And so that's kind of where that stigma of like, oh my God, is everything all right? Or is that person depressed? And most of the time I was going because I would be like, I just had a rough time at home, and how you like, I just didn't really want to be in class.
Be in class, exactly. Yeah. I think there's so many things to love about high school, but then there's so many things that I disagree with. I think, and going back to your point about like not being able to be alone for a bit, and how that pretty much led to your downfall a little bit in uni. Like you weren't comfortable with like being alone or those sorts of things, is what I'm gathering anyway. I think we grow up in high school, and we're there from Monday to Friday, 9 to 3. and you sort of have to conform and find your social groups. And then that, and to be alone or to be isolated or, you know, to not have so many friends or X amount of friends, you look down on. And those traits come back to, maybe going to an event that you want to go to. Or, you know, wanting to see a movie by yourself. Like, that's okay to do.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fine. I don't know why people are saying, or people in high school look at you and you're like, oh, like, what are they doing?
Don't you have friends or something?
Yeah,
like,
it's
you know,
like, where are your friends? Like,
yeah.
Oh, you have no friends.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things. And I think we grow up in this little bubble where it's like, well, I might as well have friends.
Yeah, you have to have friends.
Yeah, you have to have friends. Otherwise, and then, you know what? I really respect the people that just stuck to themselves in high school. I look back and, maybe they were, you know, the odd unit sometimes here and there, but then maybe they're going off and doing absolutely crazy things.
Probably killing it right
exactly.
now. You know?
They're probably killing it. And who am I to be like, oh, like, you know, they're a bit weird. You know, they don't have friends.
And
where are their friends?
That was like a huge part of getting back on track. It was, you know, when I went to therapy, it was just talking to people and them going like, why don't you feel okay that you can just go and do this stuff? And it was big revelations of like, oh, I don't know why. Like, you're right. I absolutely can just go and do that stuff. And definitely this year, like at the start of this year, before I got onto Cruel Intentions, the musical, I was like, I'm so alone. Like, as in, like, I'm back in Melbourne. That sounds so depressing. No, as in, like, I'm back in Melbourne. I haven't been in Melbourne for 3 years, right? So at this point, I've missed the years from 18 to 21, which is a massive formative time in your friend's social group as well, because you're meeting people that you don't meet at school or that you haven't met at school, right? So I came back to Melbourne. I was like, I know no one. Like, I haven't met anybody. I haven't stayed in touch with a lot of people. I left Q High at year 10, so I wasn't there from year 11 and 12, so I don't really know those people. My VCAS friends who I did go to school with year 11 and 12, they're now just getting into acting schools or they're still in acting schools, so they are in different states. I was in Melbourne, I was like, who the fuck do I know here? Like, nobody. And so I went through this big, like, chunk of time, like 4 months of me just going, I'm just going to work, I'm coming home, and that's it. And it was such a learning experience. It was such a great experience of going, well, I still want to go to the movies. I still want to go to this event. I still want to do those things. Why don't I? Like, you know.
It's like, I might not have this person to go with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why don't I?
I felt like I'd set this standard that you can only go to these things when you have someone to enjoy them with. And it's like, sure, that might be amazing, but you are also a person that you can enjoy this. You know what I mean? Like, you can also enjoy this. I can enjoy this. So why don't I? You know, why am I just sitting at home on my art playing PS5? Like, why am I doing that? Go out and do the thing that I want to do, but I don't necessarily need to do it with friends. And like 10 times out of 10, I would meet someone there that I could strike up a conversation with and be like, hey, how you going? Who are you here with? How did you hear about this event? Blah, 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 blah. I'm talking with them for the rest of the night. I've met someone really cool who I could then potentially go to another event with, you know? So, yeah, that kind of feeling of solidarity was...
It's empowering.
Yeah, of like going, I'm okay being alone. I'm okay. And I had to tell myself that a lot before I was, you know, because you cannot be. You can be very, very like, I'm okay being alone. Like, it's all right. And you're not at all. But once you finally start to feel that way, you're like, I'm okay being alone. It's great. And then I got on this musical and I was like embraced by like a family and it was amazing. And I was like, I don't think I could have, like, not to get spiritual here, but I was like, this feels like karma. Like, I was like, I just got okay being alone and suddenly I'm now surrounded by family and I've met like so many lifelong friends.
It's like that saying like, oh, you know, other people can't love you or you can't love other people until you love yourself. And like, as cliche as that sounds, like, you found the solidarity.
Sometimes it's fucking right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, you found, you know, you were at peace with yourself and you had that self-love. And you're able to just go out and fucking kill it.
I'm trying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, what's next, you know?
Well, I mean, so we, like, this tour has been insane. Like, I'm literally living a dream that I had when I was a kid. Like, there was this moment when I stepped onto stage in the State Theatre in Sydney, which is one of the most beautiful theatres. It has this, like, it's 2,000 seater, and like has this massive chandelier. It's huge. Like, this thing is huge. I'd never seen a theatre. That's magical. Like this. Yeah, and we were walking in for our technical rehearsal, like, just to kind of get everything, the lighting done. And I was like, oh, where am I going? Where am I going? And I walked onto stage and I just bawled my eyes out. And I was just like inconsolable, whatever the word is. Like, I just could not. And like smiling, laughing, like it was such an experience. And I only realized later on, I was like, that little kid in me, just like his dreams, just that he just got his dream, you know? And it may not be my dream right now. Like the 22-year-old version of me isn't like, I want to perform in the State Theatre and that's my dream, you know? It's, I want to be this kind of star, or I want to be in this kind of movie, you know? But somewhere deep rooted in me, that dream of that kid was still there. And I was just bucketing. And it was awesome, you know? And so I didn't have an experience like that for the rest of the tour, because I think after that point, I was like, okay, cool.
This is happening.
This is happening. Yeah. I can accept this now.
Yeah.
You know? And in the first month, it was more about, am I doing the right job? Like, there's a lot of experienced people here, like, that know what they're fucking doing. Am I doing the right thing? Like, I haven't been in music theatre in a bit. I've been doing film and TV training. So am I doing the right thing? And so it was a bit more of a cautionary tale. But after like a month of doing it, I'd felt comfortable. We were moving to a new city. And I got to that city and I was like, I've arrived, you know?
Here he fucking comes.
I am here. Yeah. No, you know? But as in, like, as a person, as an actor, as someone who's gone through a lot of shit for being an actor and being a black actor, and even with my weight, like, finally I was like, I did something. Like, I made a mark. I could tell my kids this one day, like, I performed on this stage. And so my future now is, I feel like it's just kind of trying to tick off the dreams that I had, but I don't think I'll ever know. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'll get to a place that maybe I'm dreaming now, right? And in 5 years' time, I'll be like, oh, cool, this is what I wanted when I was 22. It's not what I want necessarily right now. You know, it's not what I'm dreaming right now, but I can sit back and take that moment to go, oh yeah, I achieved that. And I think that's, again, something that I've learned, like we were talking about before.
Yeah, just, we've done full circle.
Yeah, of just going, oh, you know what, I've gotten there. But realistically, like pragmatically, what I'm actually achieving, like what I'm actually doing in the next couple of years is I've got a new musical coming up next year. So I'm having to move to Sydney, and just kind of following this new path in life. Like, I thought that I would finish film and TV and theatre uni, and that's where I would go. And all of a sudden now I'm doing music theatre again. So it's about now, I think, just kind of following this path. Something's obviously gone well for me. I'm working in this industry and I've now gotten another job that's lining me up until 2025. So I'm like, wow, I've just signed a 2-year contract that keeps me in work, doing what I love in a way that isn't taxing.
So what is a day in the life like for you?
A day in the life. So obviously, like, I rehearse or I perform at night, you know, so we'll have a rehearsal period, and then that'll only last maybe like 3 to 6 weeks, or maybe 6 to 8 weeks, depending. And then after that, you're in the theatre, right? So with the long form run, you basically have your whole day to yourself. You have your whole day.
That's sick.
Until maybe about 6:30, 7:30 p.m., which is your call time. And then you're there, I get ready, you do your makeup, you do your hair, you shower, whatever you need to do, you do your warm-ups, physical warm-ups, you get on stage, you work, right? You work because that's how you have to look at it. You have to look at it as work. Because if you treat it as work, you'll treat it the same way every single time, you know, and you have to be fair to every single audience. You have to treat them the same way, right? And you have to have that mentality because you have to keep that professional body, right, of having formal conversations and being respectful and never knowing who's in the room and who could give you the next job, right? So once you've done all that, you've gone on stage, you've done your job, you've taken your bow, you get off. That's the work part, right? The fun part is, what the fuck do you do with your whole day? You know, like you have from the time you get up, which is like normally for me, like around 9:30, from 9:30 to 7:30, I have all this free time.
And you're getting paid for it.
And I'm getting paid for it.
Oh, yes, sir.
Like on Saturdays, we have a morning show, so your day kind of starts at 11.
Yep.
And after a Friday night show, you kind of want to sleep in a little bit. So, and then Sunday, same thing. But Monday, Tuesday, you have off. Generally, Monday, Tuesday, I've had off. And then, yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, the Friday is all free. So I will, this year, in Melbourne specifically, I was like, I'm going to try new things. I'm going to read new books. I'm going to go see more of Melbourne because I haven't been in Melbourne in a long time. And then whenever I was in a different state, that was it. I was like, go see shit. Find out more about the state. See landmarks. Like I was in Perth. I was like, okay, I'm going to Rottnest Island. Like I'm going to go see all this stuff. I was in Adelaide. We did a wine tour, you know, like it was one of the cast members' birthdays. So I was like, all right, great, cool. We're like, she wants to do a winery tour. I was like, this is so good. Let's all go. This will be awesome. In Brisbane, because I'd been there for 3 years, that was like the most, the hard part. Like, I think being back there after such a hard time, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I, tried to do as much as I could, but spent a bit of time kind of reclusive. And
was that you like dissociating from the place or holding a little bit of the trauma from
yeah. And I think something that has been hard has been trying to figure out where I call home. And because it was Brisbane. And then when I left Brisbane, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like home. And then when I came back to Melbourne, I was like, all right, Melbourne's going to feel like home. And Melbourne didn't. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm now about to embark on a national tour, so I'm not really home anyway. I'm living out of a suitcase right now. So I was just kind of going, oh, where is it? Now I'm like, I'm moving to Sydney next year for a job. I need to make that home. I need to make that.
Has that been something that's troubled you? Because I guess a lot of people do travel for work and have like one or two locations that they sort of bounce between. Has that troubled you a little bit in terms of being, I guess, at different locations at different points and different times?
So much, man. Like, and I think only now I'm starting to go, it's all right. Like, it's all right that I kind of don't have a home. Like, it's kind of okay. It's not amazing. I don't love the feeling, but being okay with it, going, it's all right. I don't have a place that I can rest my head in terms of, okay, everything here is mine that I've built.
Familiar,
or has the family, has the friends, has it both. Because I think I've been stretched between two places. And, now it's like Melbourne and Brisbane, and now I'm moving to Sydney right in between. So I was like, oh, cool. Is that kind of like, is that kind of my home? I'm trying to find that place. But I think a lot of people are. A lot of people are searching for what they call home and searching for what their definition of that is, and maybe they have it right now, or maybe they think they have it and they will find it later on. And for me, that's generally when I've felt at home has been when I find a partner that I really, really connect with. In a relationship way has always been that. Like, I've only been in long-term relationships, so I only really build on that, So, like right now I would say my home is in Sydney because that's where my partner is, like that's where I feel most comfortable or I feel at ease when I'm with her. So yeah, it is something that's troubling, but it's not something that I'm like, I need to solve.
And was it something that you were prepared to embark on in your acting career? Like, were you aware of, hey, maybe like I'll be traveling a lot and all those sorts of things? Like, were you mentally prepared?
Not at all. Not at all. Like, I don't know why. I just didn't think about that side of things. You think about the glitz and the glam and like, like a lot of people have come up to me who have known me before cruel intentions and have been like, oh, you must be living the high life. You know, you must, I see it on your Instagram, or I see it like you're enjoying life so much and doing all these really cool things. You must be having the time of your life. And yes, I mean, yeah, I am enjoying those moments, but there are others, like people, there's such this lens that people put on things. And they
especially social media, like you feel connected, but we are far from connected.
Yeah, you feel like just you're aware of everything.
Exactly. Yeah. You feel like you're in the loop, but I don't know, filter here and there, smile here and there, like, oh, like I've got a big smile, by the beach side or something, and they're like, oh my God, like you look like you're killing life and those sorts of things, but deep down, sometimes
you're not.
Deep down,
deep down,
fair enough.
You're not.
Deep down, you're not. Oh my gosh. How did you deal with it, I guess, and have there been some learning experiences in terms of adjusting to new places and destinations?
Yeah, I think yes. Short answer is yes, because I think I've learned a lot about myself in terms of I learned that I'm maybe a different person when I'm in Brisbane, because I feel that kind of youthfulness that I did when I was there. Like it was a new city and I was all like fun and amazing, and I know all these cool little secret places. So every time I go back, I'm like, I want to go do those things again. And then when I'm in Melbourne, it's more of like, oh, this is a professional city. Like this is where I did my first gig now. So I'm a bit more professional here, a bit more, this is my hometown in terms of like, this is where I grew up. So I know like where everything is, you know what I mean? But now I'm just like, the way that I deal with it is that it's just understanding it's okay. I will find that, having that kind of certainty of it will come. But again, I'm young. I've got a lot ahead of me. So it's all right if I don't have it right now. That's kind of my mindset about it. Yeah.
Love it. I think that's it. I mean, that's the way to sort of go about it, I guess. And I think it's, I don't know, in Melbourne, you don't really see many people sort of step out and fly elsewhere unless it's internationally.
Yes.
I hear a lot of people from Perth fly down. Like a lot of my friends are from Perth. My partner's from Perth.
Oh, right. Cool.
Yeah. So everyone comes here for the opportunities, and then you sort of feel comfortable in Melbourne. And I think a lot of our generation feel very comfortable in Melbourne. So they're not like prepared to take that step out and venture elsewhere.
Which I think they should. Like, people don't realize that Australian cities are so different to each other. Brisbane is so different to Melbourne, like ridiculously different. And I don't think people understand that, like especially people from Melbourne. Yeah. Like I never had that idea. I was like, yeah, well, Brisbane's just going to be exactly like Melbourne. It's absolutely not. Same with Sydney. They're so vastly different in terms of their culture, in terms of their nightlife, in terms of the way that even the people there are. Like, I think a lot of Melbournes, I agree completely. They don't venture out at all. And I think they should. Like, I think you should go to Brisbane and realize how chill everyone is and how laid back everyone is. And you're like, why are you so laid back? And they're like, because we have beaches. And you're like, oh yeah, right. Those things. And they're like, we have nice weather. And you're like, oh yes, what's that?
What do you mean? We have St Kilda.
Yeah, exactly. With syringes on it everywhere.
Good place.
Yeah, we love St Kilda.
Yeah, literally. Oh gosh.
But yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of finding a place and in terms of finding your passion, I think those two kind of coincide. At some point, they will cross over. And whether or not you've found one or the other first, I've found, like, I'm lucky I found my passion first before I found my home. You know, so I'm kind of following that to kind of take me where I want to go, right? Whereas some people that I know and I can only talk about my industry, but some people have found their home and have found where they want to settle down, and they're using that to kind of fuel their passion. You know, they're finding opportunities around where they live and around their base, you know? Like, I think that's the important thing that I've learned, that, like, you can still have your dream job without having to give up everything else, right? Because I thought that, and a lot of my friends think that that's what you have to do. But it's really not. Like, you can have the best of both worlds. You just have to be able to compromise. You just have to be able to work hard on it. Yeah.
That's such a sick point.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. The fact that you're able to twist, I mean, depending on which situation you go through, there's like always different paths and opportunities that present themselves. And I think that's such an amazing outlook to have in terms of maybe, you know, you're moving countries and you're like, oh, well, fuck, like now I can't, I don't know, be an actor or do the podcast or I don't know, whatever you're chasing, those sorts of things. But then places around there. It's not like they don't do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or
There's always opportunity.
Yeah, or
There's
it's like,
always.
I want to do podcasting, and maybe I'll move to Sydney with my partner when she goes for med school. Maybe I'll just have to go out and find new people to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, yeah, what do you compromise and what do you seek out and you know, seek after sort of things. Yeah, love it. What's acting like? What is acting like? Yeah, it's a foreign concept for me, to be honest. Not the best actor, but
Man. Whoa. What is acting like?
what's it like being on stage?
It's a thrill, man. It's such a thrill, dude. It is. I think live performance is. You can't really explain it. There's always still the adrenaline rush every night. Like every night, there's no night where you're like, nah, I'm just not feeling it. Like, sure, you may be tired, you may not want to do it, but you still have those nerves, you still have that adrenaline of going on and that thrill. I think for me, acting has always just been fun. Like, I just love, even if I'm really shit at it, like I could be really bad at this thing and no one has told me, but I enjoy it. And for me, that's what acting's like. It's getting off stage and going, that was fun. I had a lot of fun and I've somehow managed to make this my job, you know, and I've somehow managed to build the beginnings of a career out of this.
Yeah, and like it's not
what's
like
counting like? Like
what's counting
what's counting like?
Shit. Absolutely do not recommend, but you know, like if you like it, you like it. So I'm not gonna like go and hate a lot, you know? Great question.
So good.
Yeah, it's funny how life is like a luck of the draw sort of thing, you know, like you're doing it because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're doing it, maybe you're doing it for the crowds, like you love the adrenaline rush from the crowds, or maybe you love the stories that come out of it, and those sorts of things. Like, has that come across as well?
Yeah, I think telling stories is a huge thing, and it's why I also love like writing stuff or writing short stories or writing short films or trying to make my own stuff as well, because that side of things is also what fuels my passion, and it feeds directly back into acting. So yeah, I think I think that when you have a passion that can it's kind of a broad spectrum, acting is, you know, like you can have so much to do with it. You can direct, you can make films, you can do all this other stuff that still fuels that passion of telling stories. I think that's just awesome, like that you can tie in so many different things. So yeah, so telling stories is a big thing for me, especially being, you know, first generation immigrant, person of color, growing up in a country like Australia, you know, which is such a interesting place to have POCs and is such a story that isn't really told, you know, like we have a saturated industry of white stories in Australia, and we're only just now starting to see the beginnings of really important First Nation stories now, like hitting main stage theaters and grants being put up. And now at the grassroots level is now immigrant stories, and now you know, you've got Southeast Asian, you've got Asian stories, you've got a lot of actually Pacific Island stories as well, which is awesome that kind of stuff is now starting to come through as well. And that kind of stuff, if I'm ever feeling like a little bit dry with our industry, like, oh man, there isn't anything kind of coming out that's kind of giving me that lift, that boost of going, oh, that's awesome, I want to be in something like that, you know. Now I'm starting to see that theater, I'm starting to see that kind of stuff, and every time I do, I'm like, awesome, there's a market. Like, if you look at it from a business point of view, there's a market, more stuff's going to come like that, I'm going to be in the next one, you know. And so, and then as an actor, I go, I want to write something like that, I want to create something like that, I want to tell my story, or I want to tell my mum's story, I want to tell anything of my childhood, you know. That's what fuels me.
Yeah, I love that so much. Is that something on the cards?
Yes, it is.
I really, I want you to do that.
Yeah.
Like this is me asking you to do that.
Now I will. Thank you, Jen.
Amazing. No, but it's like you grow up in Australia and as a POC, you have, and an immigrant as well, you have these two different pathways where it's like, one, you diverge and you start neglecting your childhood and you start thinking about your culture in a negative light. I know I did it. I was like, oh God, like my grandpa slurps at the dinner table. What the fuck is wrong with him? And it's like the whitewashed, like that 100%, thing, and it's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's just the culture and the environment that you're brought up in. But as a POC, like, and this is my message to listeners as well, it's like, please hold on to your heritage. It's so important, and it's what makes you, and it's just so, it makes you unique, and that's not a bad thing, and you should use that to your advantage as well. Or there's the path where you start embracing it and creating these stories and living life, and really sharing who you are, what your parents did to get you here, what you're able to do now because your parents got you in this position, and those sorts of things. And I just think it's so awesome, and you need to embrace where you come from, no matter who you are, whether you're Southeast Asian, I just say that because
African,
exactly. Like there's just so many places that you come from, and Australia is so multicultural. So just embrace yourself.
Yeah. And I think also that comes back, and we're going to tie it full circle. This is how we're going to do it, right?
Okay, amazing. I'm excited.
It comes all the way back to high school. There's a massive whitewashing in there where you feel like you have to abandon that identity because it doesn't apply to the high school norms or the high school values that other people have set, generally white,
Thank you for getting into this. I wanted to get into it, but
So I agree completely that you can't lose that culture that you have. You can't lose that heritage that you have. And, nowadays we're starting to see a lot more awareness and a lot more respect and a lot more caution when talking about people's culture, people's heritage. And especially in high school, we see, because it's saturated on our social media. It's saturated on TikTok of like people being woke and people, being an ally and trying not to...
White savior,
white guilt, And so I think in the next couple of generations to come, people of color are going to start facing that, where if they're not already, but like in high school specifically with faculty members doing that. And, there's that whole cancel culture now, it's so dangerous.
It's such a touchy, it's such a touchy subject, I think. And I always talk to this, I talk with my partner about this because she's half white, half Asian. So she sees the best of sort of both worlds and understands one parent's perspective and the other parent's perspective. So always talk about this, and it's such an interesting discussion in terms of how certain races are treated and compared to other people. And then it's great that, I guess, let's say white people want to adopt this persona where they're woke or where they're trying to help us. But then there's that, again, fine line.
It is fine line.
Of are you just doing this because you want content out of it?
Is it performative? Yeah.
Is it because you want the satisfaction of being a good person? Or are you genuinely doing this because you care about that person? Or is it for your self-gain?
And it's so hard to know.
Exactly.
And from a person of color's point of view, I'm always just like, are you authentic?
It's like,
and then it's offensive if you say like, are you being real right now?
Because then you're questioning their intentions. And it's just this weird, awkward
it's this gray area of going like, are you actually standing up for me because you believe that it's right? Or are you standing up for me because
society's
telling you that you need to do it? Yeah,
exactly. It's like, do you genuinely have the intention of helping me?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And then, one thing that I think is important is that we also need to look at it from their point of view and from people who don't associate with a ethnicity that is not Caucasian or European, like for them, it must be so difficult because I have white friends that are like, I have white friends.
I have black friends. I have white friends.
No. But I have a lot of people that, on social media will see issues and will be like, do I need to post something on my story to show that I'm with this? Because we have things on Twitter now, and I mean, who uses Twitter? But like, but it's in like, it's huge in America. The states love Twitter. But if celebrities or if, people with a platform, if they don't say anything on a particular issue, they're seen as against it. Or they're seen as silent. They're seen as not using their platform.
Yeah.
So now that's kind of filtered down to our level where people are like, well, if I don't post a black square, am I racist?
Yeah,
and it's like,
I know. It's so toxic.
And I understand that they are probably going through this really difficult decision of going, I'm not racist, but I don't want them to think that I'm performative. And they're stuck in a bind. They're stuck in a really hard position. And so sometimes I empathize and I go, if you're not posting anything, you're not saying anything, I can understand why. And I think it's a really important thing that people of color need to do nowadays is actually see it from someone else's point of view.
As hard as it is.
It's so difficult.
It's very difficult.
You're like, oh, well, you should be fighting for my rights. You should be doing all this stuff. But it's like they are in a position that there's never been a situation like this. We've never created a culture like this where you can lose everything
because you didn't repost
or say one thing.
Yeah.
You can lose your job. You can lose so much, your future, everything, friends, family. And so, it's gotten huge. Cancel culture has gotten huge, especially about racism. Racism is the big kind of umbrella after BLM and everything. So, what
was BLM like for you?
Fucked.
Yeah,
fucked.
What did you feel about it? Because I can't relate, obviously, but
the movement was the actual ideals behind the movement, amazing.
Amazing,
it was great.
Yeah.
So this good segue. So BLM happened while I was home in Melbourne. It was during COVID for me, mainly, the majority of it. And I had all my friends everywhere was black squares, blah, blah, blah. I didn't post a thing because I was like, I don't need to. I had people randomly messaging me being like, I just want to let you know I support you. I'm like, this is about America right now. Not about Australia. I was like, and the only part about Australia is about Indigenous lives. I'm not Indigenous, so don't make this about me.
And then there were posts where people took a spin on it and were like, it's actually Indigenous. And then they related that. Which I thought was cool, but why does it need to take an event, a large-scale event in America to bring it back to Australia for us to be like, oh, by the way, there's Indigenous land.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's a BLM is a spark, It's a spark that Indigenous Australians were like, finally, something is large enough
and relevant
that the Australian media is covering it. So let's actually open up their fucking eyes to what's going on. Because people are condemning it over there, but it's like it's happening in your own backyard. There's police brutality towards Indigenous Australians. There's so much happening, but it's so not talked about. It's so taboo, right? So I found that very empowering to see that happen. And I was a big supporter of that. And that was the side of the campaign that I was following.
Yeah, I love that.
But what happened was all my friends, right, in my acting cohort and everyone else from Brisbane were posting about how they stand with BLM, how they support it. And my first day back at uni after COVID, we had a guest lecturer come in. And he's like this old fossil. The man is like, right? Wisdom. Yeah. He was a fossil. But he'd done a lot. And when I mean fossil, I mean he had done a lot in the industry. But also that he's fucking old. No, I'm kidding. And so he came in and we'd never met him. We were walking into this room and it was a studio. So it was set up quite similar to this. But it was like a huge kind of newsroom vibe. So there was this dark area and this lit up area. And I was holding the door open for everyone. Everyone came in. I walked in. I had the last chair in the far back corner in the dark. And our head lecturer, the head of our course, was like, this is blah, blah, blah. And he'll be taking your class today. And the first words out of his mouth were, why is the blackest kid in the room sitting in the darkest corner where I can't see him?
Nah.
And everyone just went and just like looked at me. And I was like, okay, all right, this is what we're going to do. Anyway, he kept going on and no one said anything. My head lecturer peeked out behind the whiteboard and was like, are you okay? And I looked at her like, what do you want me to say to that? But anyway, I was like, I'm fine. Please go away. Anyway, the rest of the class, it was a 4-hour lecture, a deep dive into acting on screen. I had like racist comments made the entire time. He would alienate me, would consistently say to the rest of the class, also, you know, you're going to need these kind of lights when you're working because blah, blah, blah. Oh, but you won't, you know, obviously, because you're black. And he'd be like, you're going to need a lot more effort just because of your skin tone and it's going to be really hard for you. And, you know, just want to let you know. Anyway.
I take back the wisdom comment.
Yeah.
It's just like obvious that they're a fossil and, you know, that's their generation.
Yes.
It's what we sort of have to accept, you know, and you know, not all of them are like that.
Yeah.
A lot of old people, you know, love and are very appreciative and grateful for people of color. I've met so many like old people that, you know, support the culture and are indifferent.
Yes.
Which is so important. And it brings me on to this topic. I did this as an oral presentation in school.
Oh, great.
Yeah, like sensationalism.
Yes.
If for the listeners, I just quickly Googled it, just for context, is like the presentation of stories in a way that is intended to provoke public interest or excitement at the expense of accuracy. So you see all the Instagram stories where it's like you're reposting, to like donate to, I don't know, the Ukraine war, or those sorts of things, like sensationalism. You get satisfaction out of reposting these stories, but then what are you doing in real life? Are there any steps that you're taking to reprimand and fight racism in person?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of your classmates reposted the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And then sat in that classroom and didn't.
Silent.
Yeah.
And that was what I was upset about. That's why so he was taking us for like 2 days and no one said anything. And I was looking around. I was in utter disbelief, not because of the racist comments. Well. Yeah. Cause I was like, that's fine. I've had that shit my whole life. This is just words, right? But it was looking around at my cohort and going, all of you have just reposted how much you support this. And it's happening right in front of your face.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you're being silent. And I was furious. So I didn't rock up to the class the next day. I was like, I didn't know what to do. So I did what like you do best. I educated myself and, you know, and read everything and was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a statement in front of everybody because I want to talk to everyone who was there, everyone who's heard about this because news traveled fast, and my head lecturer, and I want to talk to the dean and I want to talk to everybody. So I organized this chat. I emailed every single person in a group email.
Involved in that incident?
Involved in the incident and who was in the other years, the years above me in acting and the years below me in acting.
Because they would have had the same...
They would have had the same lecturer the year before, and then these guys would have had the lecturer next year. I invited the entire faculty and I sat them down and I gave them an hour-long speech about performative activism, about how no one came to my aid, and how this lecturer had actually had complaints brought about him 2-3 years before as well from people of color, and how none of those complaints made it through. And so I was like, this is, you know, anyway, so I gave this whole speech. And what I appreciated was that my cohort, the second years, didn't say a word. They sat there in the front row and they listened, because most of them, apart from the people of color in that room, because that was the one thing I was like, the people of color in that room shouldn't have had to speak up, because if anything, he could have turned on them. And one of them came up and told me and was like, I was just afraid he was going to pick on me as well. And I was like, absolutely fine. You shouldn't need to say anything. The people who are saying that they support us and will speak up for us, those are the people that should be saying stuff. So those people sat there, listened, and understood. And the years above me, the third years, all of a sudden the gates opened and they let out all this shit and voiced their opinions. And I was like, wow, I've actually provided
A
some platform
Yeah.
for people to air their grievances to a point where it'll be heard. And that's all I think we need. I think we just need it to be heard. And then if no change comes from that, then that's when we take action.
I fucking love that.
Yeah.
I admire you a lot for doing that.
Oh, thank you, man. That's like my claim for uni.
Dude,
I did that. Like, I was like, yes.
Exactly. Fucking hell. What a story. Just like, and the confidence as well. Like, I'm sure so many introverted people or people who are a bit shy that I guess would have just sat there and, dealt with it a little bit.
And that was a huge thing. I was like, I'm not doing this because it happened to me. I'm doing this because
there's other people that are silent
next
because
year that are going to feel this. There were people 3 years ago. So it happened like in 2018, 19, sorry, 17, 18, and 19. And it happened to me in 2020. And I was like, how's this guy coming back every time? Like, these people are complaining. And I talked to those people and they said, yeah, he did this. He said this. He blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, all right, cool. Give me that. I'm going to bring that up as well. And so I was like, because there's going to be one, I know I'm just using me as an example, but one black kid next year who's probably going to go through that same shit and he may not say anything and it could fuck him up. And I was like, and I'm not about that, So I was like, I felt compelled, which I think you find a lot of people who stand up for stuff never really feel like, I'm going to make a speech. They're just like, I just started talking.
Yeah, exactly.
I just start, like, it just comes naturally.
But why does it need to come to that is my question. And that comes to the root of the problem and everything. It's like, why does it need to be some black kid who steps up after a comment was made to him about it? Like, why does it take not all these complaints prior, but why does it take you sitting down the entire cohort and the faculty to talk about it?
I think
doesn't make sense.
I don't think that we'll ever really understand why, because there's always going to be a new situation. There's always going to be something that they're like, oh, okay, we'll learn from this. Or, oh, next time we'll do that. But
it's always going to be subconscious bias as well. Yeah. And it's like, how do you revoke and how do you reverse engineer the way that people not of color think?
And it seems like the way that we have, like the path that we've chosen, not we, but the path that as a society we've chosen is to go, okay, we're going to educate people through social media. I mean, it's like, that's not it. Like, social media is a great way to bring awareness to issues.
Yeah, the reach is crazy, but how detailed can you get with 10 slides?
Yeah.
Or a minute worth of content.
Yeah.
You just cannot get anywhere with that.
I think people that like are using their platform for good though are people like, I don't know if you saw, but on I think it was a music award ceremony, but Lizzo, right, brought out on accepting her award, she brought out like 10 or 20 different women or people that were doing good in their respective field. And I was like, that is what using a platform is. That's what you need to be doing when you repost something. It's going, look at what this person is doing. You need to be aware of this. I have a reach and I can do this. So something that I'm now working on to kind of, because, now I'm on stage, I'm reaching potentially a couple thousand people in a week, right? In terms of those are the people that are seeing me. And now I'm like, all right, cool. I want to help for something that's it's my passion. So Sri Lanka is, where my mom is from. And right now they're going through like a really bad economic crisis. Like the government officials are all corrupt. There's no petrol, there's no food. There's a high suicide rate now because a lot of people can't provide for their families. So they're, committing suicide. They're, like my family over there, a lot of my family, we have to send them like boxes full of things, just like powdered milk, dairy, like non-perishables and perishables because they can't get it anywhere. So that's something that's now become really present in my life. Like it's suddenly at the forefront. There's no medicine. So I'm like sitting at home during Christmas recently going like, what the fuck can I do? Like I can't help. And then I'm like, actually I fucking can. Like I can get up. I can help. So now it's about, all right, how do I use the platform of being an actor, of seeing a lot of people, or a lot of people coming to see, not me specifically, but seeing me in the show. So now it's like, all right, cool. Can I work with charities? Can I work with a social media group? Can I promote this? And that, I think, is better than just me posting on my story going, hey guys, donate to this charity.
X charity,
It's going, hey guys, I am a ambassador for this charity, or I am donating to this charity and I'm going to be here at these events, or our show is doing something for the charity. And it's like putting actions and into the world and then making people aware of it, rather than just hitting that repost button.
Yeah, it comes down to convenience though. Like
it's easier said than done.
Oh, exactly.
So much easier said than done.
Of course, you're going to repost this because, you know, it's just a couple clicks of a button and then boom, you're like social justice warrior.
Yeah.
You know? And now you're not racist. You know, like suddenly, I don't know, you're immune to being a racist.
Yeah, no one can call you out.
No, exactly.
I reposted that story.
Exactly, I reposted it. Oh, you didn't repost it? Damn, you people
must be
can
racist.
cancel. Yeah, exactly. It's so awesome that you're going out and like educating people, and I'm sure you have some sort of power to be like, hey, can we actually collaborate with this charity, or can we at the end, you know, when we're taking our bow, like have something presented that's like, oh, by the way, this is happening. Like if you have any, I don't know, like have a chance to maybe check it out, educate yourself, and those sorts of things. And yeah, it's amazing how you talk about using your platform to spread awareness, because we all have our own little platform, whether you have 50 followers, 500 followers, 5,000 followers.
But you know, you can always reach that person that's got more.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's the aesthetic behind of reposting your stories. That, oh, well, I can repost it and more people can become aware of it. But it's when you repost something that has no value to anyone, like people are just going to tap on it and go, okay, cool. You know, like that's what I find performative activism. But if it's genuine and it's like going, holy crap, not a lot of people know about this issue right now, and I know a lot of people are going to watch my story and actually pay attention to it, which I've found lately, that I'm like, okay, cool. I actually have quite a decent amount of people that, when I say decent, I don't mean like thousands. I mean like, you know, maybe 100 people that are actually going to pay attention to what I put on my feed. So I'm going to actually be very careful about what I put up there, and actually going to push the fact that Sri Lanka is going through a really tough time. And then I'm going to continue to do it so that it's not just like hey, here's one post about Sri Lanka. It's going to be like, oh, okay, cool. Rishab's got that thing going on again. And then creating that kind of brand, that kind of, hey, you know what? This is what I'm supporting. This is what I'm about. And that's what I'm using my platform for.
Yeah. I will admit, like, I'm a culprit to sensationalism as well.
Oh,
and,
we all are.
And I think we all are. And I guess personally, and maybe speaking on your behalf as well, like, we're not here to just sit here and be like, what the fuck are you doing? This is wrong. How dare you repost and stuff? No. Because we've done it before.
Oh, 100%.
But then it's like, what are the steps that you're taking behind the scenes and those sorts of things to educate yourself or empower yourself to be in a position where you can actually contribute to the matter. That's the message, I guess.
Yeah, no, because that's the thing. It's like, we're not here saying reposting shit is bad.
No, it's not.
But it's just, you have to be careful, because you can fall into a really downward spiral. And I've seen, like I said, my friends fall into this real big, like, they're just questioning everything. You know, they're questioning, I'm like, it's an Instagram post, man. Why are you so concerned about it? They're like, well, because if I don't do this, then people are going to think this. And I'm like, whoa. Like, in my head, I'm like, what is going on? Like, that's crazy. And I think to all the POC watching this, that's something that you should
Thank you if you're still watching, by the way.
Yeah.
This has been a spiral, but it's been awesome.
This is
honestly.
This is a part 2 of the podcast.
I don't even know. I might just
section.
this is the racism section.
This is the racism section. So the first part was the acting. This is now the racism podcast. I think, to all the POC that are watching this, like, take some time to think about other people's point of view, because we have obviously tipped the scales now to kind of go, oh, we got to listen to black voices, we got to listen to, and it's like, yeah, we do, but that doesn't mean that we demean other people's voices, you know, because that's what got us here in the first place.
100%. Rishab, thank you for your time.
Thank you for so much of your time. I just kind of talked.
And that's what it is all about. We love to see it. Where Where can people find you?
At the theatre. No.
At the theatre, exactly. Well, what's the next play or
so
performance?
we will be in the Gold Coast on the 19th of January, and we will be in Parramatta at the end of January. But we come back to Melbourne at the Athenaeum Theatre on 13th of February, and we'll be here until the 12th of March.
Hopefully the podcast is out by then.
Hopefully. With all this content, I don't know how.
Jeez, yeah.
It's going to take a while.
I might have to post weekly or something.
And then my Instagram is just my name, Rishab Kern.
Yeah, all be in the show notes below. But if you've listened this far, thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to follow at Life with Lamb Podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Let's do this. Thanks, man. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Appreciate it.
That was fun. I love that.
So good.